Picture this. You're running a race, and deep down you are definitely faster than the competitor lined up right next to you.
Right, you've got the edge.
Exactly. But there's a catch here. You don't just need to beat them to advance to the next round. You need to cross that finish line by a very specific, highly aggressive margin. So what do you actually do?
You probably just sprint as hard as you can.
You sprint. You push so incredibly hard right out of the starting blocks that you completely lose your form. Your mechanics just break down, and suddenly you are literally tripping over your own feet.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a classic panic move.
It is. And that is exactly the scenario that played out on the global stage at the 2026 Women's T20 World Cup in this incredibly gripping match between New Zealand and Scotland. So our mission for this deep dive is to kind of extract the broader lessons of momentum, pressure, and, survival from this highly tense game.
Because New Zealand absolutely had to win this one to keep their semifinal hopes alive, right?
Yeah, right. But, okay, let's unpack this. Because of the tournament's net run rate rules, they didn't just need a victory. They needed to win fast, really fast. Let's get right into the mechanics of that pressure. What exactly does that mathematical burden do to a heavily favored team?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely alters their psychology. To understand this shift, you really have to look at what net run rate, or NRR, actually is.
Right, for the listener who might not be looking at the tournament standings every day.
Exactly. It's essentially this tiebreaker system, and it's based on how fast a team scores compared to how strictly they limit their opponent's scoring.
Yeah.
So it is not enough to just, score one more run than the other team and win.
It's an overarching mathematical shadow, basically.
That's a great way to put it. It hangs over these tournament games, and it can be just a massive psychological trap. When a team steps onto the field focusing on the math rather than, the actual ball sitting right in front of them, fundamental errors almost always creep into their mechanics.
They start playing the game, and they start playing the scoreboard.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the very start of this match. So New Zealand wins the toss and puts Scotland in to bat. On paper, this is the perfect setup, You bowl them out cheaply, chase the target down in, say, 10 overs, and watch that net run rate just skyrocket.
That was definitely the plan.
But New Zealand's desperation for that quick win immediately backfired. Reading through the source material, it felt like they were trying to, speed run a video game level.
Oh, a speed run. I like that comparison.
When you try to set a record in a game, so you skip all the basic defensive moves just to save time, and you end up taking ridiculous damage from low-level enemies? That was New Zealand in the field.
The speedrun analogy is actually a perfect lens for their performance here. The source material refers to a fielding virus that was just infecting the New Zealand squad.
A fielding virus? That sounds bad.
It was. I mean, they had already dropped 10 catches in their first 3 games of the tournament.
Wow. 10 drops.
Yeah, 10. And normally, you would assume a top-tier team would rigorously correct that in practice. But the trend just continued right here in a must-win game.
Yeah.
And it stems entirely from that rushed mentality you were talking about.
And Scotland certainly didn't wait around, did they? They came out swinging and put up 51 runs in just the first 7 overs.
It's just a fantastic start for them.
Right. But New Zealand was practically handing them those runs through sheer sloppiness.
Yeah.
Early on, Brie Illing, who the report notes is one of the tournament's most impressive seamers, she induces an inside edge off Scotland's Catherine Fraser.
And Fraser hasn't even scored a single run yet at this point.
Exactly. She's on 0. It is a straightforward routine opportunity. And Isabel Gaze, the New Zealand wicketkeeper, just drops it.
Unbelievable.
And then later on, Nancy Patel drops Darcey Carter on 47 off the bowling of Melly Kerr. I mean, what is happening mechanically when seasoned professionals suddenly develop butterfingers like this?
It is entirely about body language and focus. When you are desperate for a quick wicket to, accelerate the game, your physical mechanics just break down. You snatch at the ball instead of letting it come softly into your hands.
Ah, so you're fighting the ball.
Exactly. Your eyes move away from the ball a fraction of a second too early because you're already looking up, anticipating the celebration, or just thinking about how quickly you can get the next batter to the crease.
You skip the final, most crucial step of the process, actually securing the ball.
Exactly.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second, though. Fraser was eventually caught at extra cover for just 7 runs. So dropping a player who goes on to score only 7 runs, it seems like a minor, relatively harmless mistake in the grand scheme of a T20 match. Why is that specific drop so catastrophic?
Because looking solely at the individual runs is just the wrong way to evaluate the error. It's about the partnership and the environment it creates out there on the pitch.
Okay, makes sense of that for me.
Well, by keeping Fraser out there, Scotland maintained their opening partnership. That allowed Darcey Carter on the other end to really settle in, read the pitch, and play aggressively, without the immense pressure of watching her teammates get dismissed all around her.
So because Fraser survived, Carter was kind of insulated?
Right. She capitalized on that stability, scoring 41 of Scotland's first 51 runs. The damage isn't just what the dropped player scores. It is the confidence and strike rotation it provides to the player who is actively punishing you.
That makes total sense. I mean, think about that in your own life for a second. If you rush a project at work to meet some arbitrary deadline you set for yourself, you might skip the proofreading phase to save, I don't know, 10 minutes.
We've all been there.
Right. But because of a glaring typo, the client sends it back and it costs you 3 days to fix the relationship. Rushing the fundamentals always costs more time than it saves, and New Zealand dug themselves a massive hole doing exactly that. At 58 for 2 in the 9th over, Scotland had real momentum.
They absolutely did. But, as you often see in high-level sports, momentum isn't an unstoppable force. It is usually broken by deliberate, often subtle, tactical shifts. And that is how New Zealand finally stopped the bleeding here.
What did they do?
They leaned heavily on their veteran experience and initiated just a massive tactical squeeze.
I really want to dig into the mechanics of that squeeze, because the first part of it was entirely focused on Darcey Carter. She was flying, scoring 35 off her first 18 balls.
She was on fire.
But then New Zealand somehow managed to completely starve her of the strike. How do you actually do that in cricket? Like, physically?
You do it by manipulating the field and your bowling lines. New Zealand recognized Carter was the danger, obviously, so they set their fielders in positions that easily allowed a single run for the other batter, but completely cut off the boundary options for Carter.
So they basically gave the other batter a free pass just to get Carter off the strike.
Yeah, pretty much. And they bowled lines that forced the secondary batters to play at the ball, ensuring Carter spent long stretches standing at the non-striker's end, just watching.
Wow.
Her scoring rate plummeted as a result. I mean, she went from 35 off 18 to finishing that middle phase with 54 off 39.
That is a drastic drop-off, but shutting down one player usually opens up an opportunity for another, doesn't it? While they were starving Carter, Sarah Bryce started to get dangerous at the other end, hitting 25 off 21 balls.
Right, which is a real threat.
So New Zealand's response to that was bringing in Sophie Devine in the 15th over. Talk about an immediate intervention. Devine bowls a straight ball and pins Sarah Bryce Pound on her very first delivery.
First ball.
First ball. Now, for those less familiar with cricket terminology, what exactly does pounda mean mechanically?
It stands for leg before wicket. Essentially, if a bowler delivers a ball that is on a trajectory to hit the stumps, those 3 wooden poles, and the batter misses it with their bat, but the ball hits their leg or, any part of their body, the umpire can rule them out.
Because their body blocked the wicket.
Right. The logic is that the leg illegally prevented the ball from hitting the wicket. Devine bowled a delivery so perfectly straight and full that when Bryce missed it, she was trapped dead in front of the stumps.
A massive dismissal, and then just 4 balls later in that same over, Ailsa Lister sends the ball straight to Lea Tahuhu at long on.
Devine takes 2 wickets in her first over and completely fractures Scotland's middle order.
That double strike completely changed the landscape of the match. But the source material highlights that the real strategic masterstroke was what followed the spin squeeze.
Oh, this was brilliant.
Lea Tahuhu and Nancy Patel bowled 8 overs in tandem. They gave up just 42 runs and took 4 wickets between them. Lea Tahuhu alone finished with 3 for 17.
Incredible stats.
Now, obviously, the stats are fantastic, but I have to wonder, I want your take on this. Was this truly a brilliant tactical masterclass by New Zealand, or did Scotland, as the underdog, just run out of steam and choke once the pace came off the ball?
What's fascinating here is that those two things are entirely intertwined. It wasn't just that New Zealand bowled well individually, it was the tandem pressure that actively caused the panic.
How so?
You have to understand why spin bowling is so difficult to hit in this specific context. Fast bowlers provide the pace, right? A batter can just use the speed of the ball to deflect it to the boundary.
Just angle the bat and let the speed do the work.
Exactly. But spinners take all the pace off the ball. The batter has to generate all the power themselves, and on a tricky surface where the ball is gripping and turning, that is incredibly difficult.
So if one spinner bowls a really tight over for only 2 runs, The batter feels this overwhelming urge to attack the other spinner in the next over just to make up the difference.
Precisely. And when both spinners are landing the ball perfectly, that pressure compounds exponentially. The source highlights a moment that perfectly illustrates this psychological breakdown. Brianna's Chatterjee.
Oh.
She faces Melly Kerr and attempts 4 consecutive sweeps. Now, a sweep shot is where a batter gets down on one knee to hit the ball horizontally. It is a high-risk, premeditated shot.
And she tried it 4 times.
4 times in a row. To attempt it 4 times in a row means you are completely disregarding the actual delivery. She misses the first 3, and on the 4th, she is out poundly.
4 sweeps in a row. That sounds like a player who has completely lost their internal rhythm and is just desperately trying to force a shot that isn't there. It's pure tilt.
It is the absolute definition of tilt. The tandem pressure forced a batter into a low-percentage shot repeatedly until it resulted in a wicket. It is a psychological collapse induced entirely by tactical discipline from New Zealand.
And amid all of this, veteran Lea Tahuhu, making her tournament debut, takes her 100th T20 international wicket.
Yeah, the veteran core completely reasserted their dominance there.
But even with that incredible squeeze, we cannot ignore Scotland's massive achievement. Darcey Carter survived the entire ordeal. The report mentions she carried her bat through the innings to finish 72 not out. That is such a vivid phrase. It means she opened the batting and survived the entire innings without being dismissed, right?
Yes, carrying the bat is one of the sport's great idioms, and it signifies immense endurance and focus. While her whole team crumbled around her, she just stayed out there.
That's amazing.
It is. Carter actually surpassed Praniti Manhana as the tournament's top run scorer with that innings. It is a remarkable individual performance, especially for a team that ultimately didn't have the firepower to post a massive total. Thanks to New Zealand's spin squeeze, Scotland was restricted to a 131 for 7.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So 131 for 7. For a team of New Zealand's caliber, chasing 132 should be a walk in the park.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the exact moment where they're supposed to unleash the heavy hitters, chase it down in 12 overs, fix their net run rate, and go home early. But Scotland clearly had other plans. They didn't just roll over.
Not at all. Scotland knew they were only defending 131. When your total is that low, you cannot sit back and wait for the batters to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You have to actively hunt for wickets from ball 1. You just have to attack.
And attack they did. Kirsty Gordon opens the bowling for Scotland, and her first over yields only 3 runs. Immediately, the pressure is right back on New Zealand.
Yep.
They're trying to rush to fix their net run rate, and suddenly they're being suffocated. And then the wheels completely fall off. New Zealand experiences a catastrophic top-order collapse. By the 6th over, they are reeling at 26 for 3.
And remember, this happened during the power play.
Right. Explain the power play.
The power play is the first 6 overs of the innings where fielding restrictions are in place. Most of the fielders have to be close to the batter. Statistically, this is when batting is supposed to be the easiest, because you can easily hit the ball over the infield for boundaries.
But instead of boundaries, it was just wickets.
Yeah, Scotland's Catherine Bryce was sensational. She gets Melly Kerr to chip a catch to mid-on, and then gets Isabella Gaze trying to clear the infield but finding the fielder. 2 massive wickets when New Zealand should have been cruising.
And then Rachel Slater steps up and delivers what sounds like the ball of the tournament. The report says she bowled Sophie Devine with a stunning delivery that sneaked right through the gap between bat and pad. That is often called getting bowled through the gate, right?
That's the term, yeah.
Paint a picture of what that actually looks like for the listener.
Well, it is considered the ultimate indignity for a batter. When you play a defensive shot, your bat and your front pad should be close together, presenting this solid wall.
No gaps.
Exactly. Getting bowled through the gate means the bowler has generated so much movement, either through the air or off the pitch, that the ball sharply darts right between the tiny gap between the bat and the leg, crashing into the stumps.
Wow.
It represents a complete breakdown of the batter's defensive technique.
So you have Kerr, Gaze, and Devine. I mean, the absolute core of the New Zealand engine room, all back in the pavilion. 26 for 3. An absolute historic upset is staring New Zealand right in the face.
The panic in that dressing room must have been suffocating.
It had to be. This wasn't just about losing a game. It was about being eliminated from the World Cup by a massive underdog.
The tension would have been palpable. Every dot ball, every missed opportunity would have felt like the tournament slipping away.
But then comes the rescue mission. And the fascinating part is that it doesn't come from a seasoned superstar having a career day. It comes from Izzy Sharp and Brooke Halliday.
Who really stepped up.
They definitely did. They managed to put together an incredible 101-run partnership for the fourth wicket. Izzy Sharp hits a career-high 62, and the left-hander Halliday finishes 41 not out.
How do two batters walk into a situation where their entire top order has been dismantled for 26 runs and just calm everything down?
They did two highly specific things to neutralize the crisis. First, they entirely abandoned the net run rate objective.
Oh, they just stopped caring about the math? Exactly. They realized that trying to win fast was exactly what caused the collapse in the first place. They stopped playing the tournament math and just focused on surviving the current over. Second, they allowed themselves time to acclimatize to the surface.
What does acclimatizing actually look like in practice?
It means accepting that you cannot hit through the line of the ball aggressively. The report explicitly notes that this was a tricky pitch. The ball wasn't coming onto the bat smoothly. Acclimatizing means playing the ball much later, watching it all the way onto the bat, and avoiding lunging forward.
Which is what the top order failed to do.
Right. The top order tried to rush the pace of the pitch and failed. Sharp and Halliday respected the conditions. Sharp hit a couple of boundaries early to release a tiny bit of the pressure valve, but after that, they just worked the ball around for singles, slowly rebuilding the foundation.
The real turning point seemed to happen right after the second drinks break.
Yeah, a drinks break in cricket is a fascinating psychological reset. You get a moment to breathe, talk to your partner, and reevaluate the target.
And right after that break, in the 15th over, they finally shift gears. Halliday hits Hanarani for consecutive boundaries. That is the exact moment the required run rate finally dropped to under a run a ball. It was like you could hear a collective exhale from the New Zealand dugout.
It is a textbook example of pacing an innings under extreme pressure. But it is an incredibly difficult thing to execute mentally when the stakes are that high.
That is the psychology I want to explore. Why do incredibly talented, world-class players crumble when the scoreboard reads 26 for 3, while others, like Sharp in this game, seem to suddenly find their rhythm? What makes someone thrive in a disaster scenario?
It often comes down to the psychological difference between protecting a lead and having nothing to lose.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. When you are a heavy favorite against an underdog and you are expected to dominate, every dot ball feels like a personal failure. The pressure is entirely internal and suffocating.
Because you're supposed to be winning easily.
Right. But when you walk to the crease at 26 for 3, the worst-case scenario has essentially already happened. The expectation of an easy win is completely gone. Strangely, that can be incredibly liberating for a certain type of player.
You just played the ball.
Exactly. You stop thinking about the overarching narrative, and your focus narrows down entirely to the physics of the next ball. Sharp wasn't thinking about the net run rate. She was just trying to stop the bleeding.
So what does this all mean? Sharp and Halliday guide New Zealand to 132 for 4, securing the win in the 19th over. They got the tournament points, they pushed their net run rate into positive territory, and in doing so, they officially eliminated Scotland from semi-final contention.
The New Zealand is far from safe.
Right. Their path forward is incredibly complicated. They now face a massive must-win game against England this weekend, and even if they win that, they need other tournament results to swing in their favor.
It is a highly precarious position. But if we look at the core lesson for anyone trying to navigate high-stakes situations, whether that is international cricket, a critical board meeting, or, a major project rollout, it is about redefining what experience actually looks like in practice.
Yeah, unpack that for us.
We tend to think that an experienced team will just execute perfectly, stick to the plan, and avoid mistakes altogether. But New Zealand made plenty of mistakes here. They dropped routine catches left and right, and their top order completely collapsed.
They were a mess at the start.
They really were. But experience isn't about perfection. It's about not letting those inevitable mistakes compound into a total system failure. It is the ability to recognize you are spiraling, abandon that speed run plan, and methodically rebuild from the ground up, just like Sharp and Halliday did.
Stop the bleeding, focus on the fundamentals, and survive the day. It's such a powerful takeaway. You can completely trip out of the starting blocks, but if you can just catch your balance and keep moving forward, you still have a chance to finish the race.
Exactly. And this raises an important question as we look ahead to New Zealand's clash with England. We just watched a top-tier team survive an absolute near disaster against a heavy underdog.
Yeah.
So does an experience like that harden a team's resolve, forge their mental toughness, and make them incredibly dangerous in the next round? Or Does struggling so profoundly against Scotland permanently expose a psychological fragility, a clear crack in the armor that a ruthless elite team like England will see and immediately exploit?
Man, that is the million-dollar question. Will the sloppy sprint against Scotland cost them the marathon against England? It is a fascinating dynamic to keep an eye on. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. As always, keep questioning the mechanics behind the headlines, keep analyzing the why behind the what, and we will catch you next time.